featuring the Meredith College Avenging Angels and your Southern Virginia University Knights. Thank you for your support of the student athletes and coaches participating in today's contest. The NCAA and USA South Athletic Conference promote good sportsmanship by student athletes, coaches, and spectators. We request your cooperation by supporting the participants and officials in a positive manner. Profanity, racial, or sexist comments or intimidating actions directed at coaches, players, officials, or any other team representatives will not be tolerated and are grounds for removal. The consumption or possession of alcoholic beverages is strictly prohibited. Thank you, and please enjoy today's game. Now starting for the Avenging Angels, we have senior middle blocker, number 5 from Fuquay, Verena, what? Fuquay, Verena, North Carolina, Lauren Bissett. Junior outside hitter from Southern Pines, North Carolina, number 7, Ali Polidori. Freshman outside hitter from Grand, North Carolina, number 14, Caitlin Russell. Freshman middle blocker from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 15, Kinley Copeland. Junior right side from Greenville, North Carolina, we have 16, Sarah Dees. A sophomore center from Roxborough, North Carolina, number 17, Lily Davis. And at libero, number 1, senior from Apex, North Carolina, Hannah Jo Jablonski. The Angels were coached by Fiona Barkley and assisted by Elizabeth Ledford. Senior middle blocker from St. Louis, Missouri, number 2, Jolene Peterson. Junior right side from Idaho Falls, Idaho, number 3, Brett Clyde. Junior outside hitter from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, number 4, Sydney Bassett. Freshman center from Sin City, Las Vegas, Nevada, number 7, Sarah Hoopman. Freshman middle blocker from Avon, Connecticut, number 12, freshman outside hitter from Mission Janesville, California, number 25, Brooklyn Madden. Number 6 junior from Gold Canyon, Arizona, Jessica Ensley. You guys are coached by the candidate assisted by D. John Baker.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to the barn at Southern Virginia University Stoddard Center, where we have another matchup of NCAA Women's Division III volleyball. This afternoon, it is the Southern Virginia University Knights versus the Meredith Avenging Angels. Of course, the Knights coming off of a big win against Pfeiffer, 3-2, just before Meredith took down Pfeiffer as well. So we have a rematch here of the USA South Conference Championship 2 years ago. Meredith obviously in full swing, off to a great start this year. The Knights trying to find their groove a bit, and hopefully this win against Pfeiffer earlier is a sign of good things to come for the Knights. I'm Quinn Meyer, and joined alongside with me is Jade Siemens.
Hi. Yeah, I'm excited for this game. I heard that the one this morning was quite a fun match to watch, so I'm excited to see what SVU pulls on Meredith.
That was Sarah Hoofman to lead things off for the Knights. Avenging Angels down in control. Nice looking block there in the front by Brenna Clyde. Good rejection. And now the Knights on the attack. They're going to see Sydney Bassett. So float one. The Angels handle that nicely. Really good play to dive for it. That was Brooklyn Madlin. They send it back over. Now the Angels back on the attack. Another play to save it by Sarah Hoofman that time. Could not dig it out. And the Angels earned the first point of set number 1. And Jade, you're able to ask Coach Debbie Baker a couple of questions before the match, and what is she able to give you?
Yes, so I asked her about what helped them win against Pfeiffer this morning. And her main point was Pfeiffer was tipping a lot rather than hitting. Meanwhile, SVU, our girls were hitting, and she said that that made the entire difference. And the main thing she wants to bring to this game, she wants her girls to go out there and just take over the floor. She doesn't want them to take plays off. She wants them to be head in the game.
Certainly want to play through the entire match against a really solid Avenging Angels club. That's Brenna Clyde on the kill right there. She led the team against Pfeiffer with 20 kills as she continues her strong start to the season. This is Sydney Bassett back to serve. Angels handle that one nicely. They're just going to tap it over softly. Sarah Hoofman, a good job to go after that one. They're going to feed number 25, Brooklyn Madlin, and another point for the Knights. They lead it 3-2.
Quinn, out of 20 players on our SVU women's night volleyball team, 13 of them this year are freshmen. So our team is incredibly young. But just from what I've seen from their warm-up practice, they are incredibly strong.
Certainly a very young team, but lots of chemistry so far by the Knights, and that'll bode well for the rest of the year. That's Brooklyn Madlin again. Another point for the Knights, and that's 3-2 now. I misspoke earlier, it was tied at 2. Now it's 3-2 lead for the Knights. Fiona Barkley giving some instruction for the Avenging Angels. This is Sydney Bassett back to serve again. That's going to float off of the hands of Caitlin Russell of the Avenging Angels, and the Knights now have a 2-point lead in set number 1. Sydney Bass on the serve again. That one hits the net, so a service error there. The first one of the day for the Knights against Meredith. And now it is Lauren Bissett back to serve, a junior from Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. That one goes to Jessica Inslee. Sarah Hoofman there trying to set up her teammate Brenna Clyde, and it looks like she had a hand over the nets. And that'll be a point for the Avenging Angels. We are now tied back at 4. Sydney Bassett receives that one. They're going to set up Madlin, and attempted block by the Avenging Angels. But that lands in their side of the court. So another point for the Knights. They lead at 5-4.
We started off this game strong. Do you think that'll continue from what you saw from our first game this morning?
Certainly. Lots of momentum going from the first game and that victory against Pfeiffer.
And Meredith is just coming off a game against Pfeiffer, so I would assume they're tired. I may be wrong, but hopefully that gives the Knights a little bit of an advantage.
Caitlin Winker is going to come back in, or rather the libero, Jessica Inslee, my mistake. She'll pop back in, and it is now Maggie Gibbons, the freshman, back to serve for the Angels. Sydney Bassett receives that one, now Jessica Inslee. She's going to go back to Madlin on the left side. Softly over for the Angels. They're on the attack. A tap over, really nice play by Meredith. That was number 15, I believe, Kinley Copeland, the freshman from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She was able to tap it right over Jelaine Pedersen. and Sarah Hoofman. Gibbons back to serve again for the Avenging Angels. Good receive by Jessica Inslee. Sydney Bass is going to go right down the middle, and no one in the vicinity for Meredith. That's going to be another point for the Knights. We are tied back at 6.
I think the biggest part of volleyball, the reason why so many people lose the points they do, is because the opposing team finds holes in their game and holes on the floor.
Nikki Stevenson back to serve for the Knights. And that one's going to float just out of bounds, right past number 13, Lexi House. And the Angels back up by 1. And Jade, you mentioned before the game that one minor change that the Knights were going to make is that Nikki Stevenson is going to see a lot more time in the place of Brenna Clyde. Obviously,
Yes.
Brenna, a major asset for the Knights, but maybe get her a little bit more rest this game.
Yes, I think coach is maybe thinking back-to-back games, try to save her energy on the team. Both of those girls are strong and willing and able to play both. So I'm not sure what's going through coach's head, and she makes that decision. I think we should trust her.
Brooklyn Madlin back to serve. Received nicely by the Angels. That's Copeland again. Diving forward is Madlin. Nice play by her. Now Sydney Bassett rejected, goes off her shoulder. Back and forth we go. And a rejection there by Sydney Bassett. I think it might have just gone up off the net rather. But nonetheless, the Knights now have retaken a 1-point lead at 8-7 in set number 1. Coach Debbie Baker shouted out instructions for the Knights. I think that's Brooklyn Madlin back to serve again. She'll float it towards the back. And Jessica Inslee, a really nice dig there. Madlin gonna put it back up, and it bounces off an Angel. Another point for the Knights, 9-7 now. So Brooklyn Madlin in the early going leads the Knights with 3 kills. She's back to serve again. They're gonna go for Copeland up high, but Madlin, no problem with that. They're gonna set up Sydney Bass on the left side, lots of power in that. Back over, the Knights have it again. They're gonna set up Jillian Pedersen. It goes off the libero, Hannah Jo Jablonski, the junior. The Knights now back up by 3. And the Avenging Angels are gonna take a timeout, the first one of the day, as the Knights have garnered lots of momentum here in the early going.
So looking at just our game stats so far, we have had 4 assists, or total attacks, from Lauren Bissett, and she is a junior from...
Fuquay-Varina.
Okay, thank you. And rather than the Knights, she seems to be the head attacker on this team so far throughout this game, whereas our head attacker so far is Brooklyn Madlin with only 2 total attacks.
So obviously we're seeing early on that Brooklyn seems to be a key cog in the attack for the Knights. She is a freshman out of Mission Viejo, California, out of Mission Viejo High School.
They give us a pronunciation guides for their names, but I think they need to give us a pronunciation guide for these towns.
Very true.
Yeah.
And Madlin, she's gonna be back to serve yet again for the 4th consecutive time. So float that one just over the net. It's gonna bounce back over for the Knights to go in the attack. Good play by Hoofman to try a little trickery there. They're gonna set up Sydney Bass on the left side. Lots of power, and it goes down right in front of Maggie Gibbons, the freshman. Another point for the Knights. It is 11-7.
Do you think the Knights are coming back stronger from their game with Pfeiffer?
Certainly. Pfeiffer, obviously a very good team as well, but Meredith poses a different challenge, and I think so far the Knights have matched up very well.
I think you're absolutely right. I think they're taking this pressure really well for having 2 games in just a day under, what was it, 4 hours after?
There's a really nice rejection by Kinley Copeland of the Angels. And it looks like there was 3 hits there by the Knights, and Meredith able to disrupt the momentum there of the Knights and get a point back. Hupin's gonna set up Sydney Bassett again. It goes off the libero, Hannah Jablonski. The second miss hit by her.
Sydney Bassett, you were mentioning earlier, is one of the players out of many that we should be keeping our eyes on. Is that because she is such a good outside hitter?
Yeah, she's second on the team so far, or rather leads the team with 94 kills on the year. So certainly an athlete to watch for the Knights. She's gonna get it back again, tap it over this time. Really nice play by Sydney. Just past the outstretched arm of Maggie Gibbons. And she's starting to find her groove. Assistant coach John Baker also on the sidelines shouting out instructions. Jessica Inslee back to serve for the Knights. Good receive by Jablonski. Nice spike there in the middle. That's number 5, Lauren Bissett. Getting in on the action. Bissett, a junior from Fuquay-Varina, North Carolina. And now back to serve is Lily Davis. A good receive there by Nikki Stevenson. She's gonna get it back, but it goes into the net. Another point for Meredith. It is 13-10.
Brooklyn, just so far from what I've seen, has played an incredible game today. I haven't watched our women's team super thoroughly, but from what I've heard, she's one of the talented freshmen on this team.
One of the many talented freshmen.
Yes,
yeah.
That's
Another kill for Sydney Bassett. She's on a roll right now. It's 14-10 Knights. Sarah Hupin back to serve, and Angels receive that one. They're gonna look towards the left side, but Hupin recovers. Sydney Bassett over the top. Lots of chaos ensuing, but Jessica Inslee gets to that dig. Brenna Clyde now. Another good dig by the Angels. They'll send it back over, almost out of bounds. Let's see what they rule, and it will be out of bounds in the Knights' favor. 15-10 make it for Southern Virginia.
During that last play, we had one of our hitters tip it into the left-hand corner on Meredith College's side. And I've noticed during this game, they have been doing that and just getting point after point, and I think Meredith is starting to pick up on that.
Sydney Bassett a dig there. Now Sarah Hupin gonna set up Wanker. Goes off the hand of Sarah Dees, and that is a 6-point Knight lead. And certainly, as Jade mentioned, the Knights have played already today, just a few hours ago, but also Meredith coming off a victory against Pfeiffer just about 45 minutes ago, so maybe fatigue plays a factor in this one in the Knights' favor. Rejection by Sydney Bassett, and she's gonna get that point for the Knights. Might have been a net fault from the Angels. And Southern Virginia building a sizable lead in the first set of play. 17-10 now, Sarah Hupin back to serve. That's received by Jablonski, maybe a bit of a miss hit. They'll just softly send it back over. Knights on the attack. They're gonna feed Brenna Clyde. She'll punch it over. Good play by Sarah Dees to dig that one out. And a direction there by Brenna Clyde. Not sure if she got it or the net got it, but nonetheless, an 8-point lead for the Knights and another timeout by Meredith.
Personally, Quinn, I don't know whether I would want to play a game back-to-back or play a game, wait an hour or two, then play another one. I don't, because your muscles would get cold and then you'd have to re-stretch, re-warm up, whereas Meredith is already hot, already fresh, they're already off a victory.
Yeah, there's certainly drawbacks to each one. But I'm sure both teams, they're very experienced. They've done this before, are able to handle it accordingly. And at this time, I want to take just a moment to announce our sponsors. The Knights Athletic Department wants to thank the following sponsors for their continued support of Knight Athletics. Cornerstone Bank, Mill Creek Orthodontics, River Crossing Apartments, Straws, Drinks and Eats. Come to Straws on September 2nd as well for Star Wars Trivia Night. Grace Automotive, where SVU students and staff can receive 10% off their vehicle maintenance needs. Papa John's Pizza, locally owned and operated. Vinyl Cuts, The Beeve, Sweet Souvenirs, Katana Sushi, and Hibachi Express. And if you would like to partner with Knights Athletic to promote your business to the Knight Nation, please contact Brett Schroeder at 801-633-1894. Sarah Hoofman now back to serve for the Knights. And a tough receive by the Angels. Sydney Bassett sends it back over. That one's going to go out of bounds by the Angels. Another point for the Knights. It's 19-10 now. Sarah Hoofman, a freshman from Las Vegas, Nevada. Jablonski receives that one. They're going to set up number 7, Ali Polidori on the left side. They'll get that point. Ali is a sophomore from Southern Pines. And now Lexi House, another freshman on the Angels squad, back to serve. Madeline's going to wait that one. Hoopman's going to feed. Brenna Clyde down the middle. Rejection by the Angels. But Wayne Cura was able to put that back up for the Knights. Nice dig. And Brenna Clyde almost not able to get to that. She didn't. Then Wayne Cura followed it up. Hoopman diving for it. Lots of bodies on the ground. Sydney Bassett couldn't quite get to that one. And the Angels able to get a second straight point. First time in a while that they've been able to do that since the early going. And they trail now by 7 in the first set of play.
Watching number 13 on their team, Lexi House, the one who just served. She is one of their stronger servers on Meredith College's team.
Nice play by number 16, Sarah Dees, to put it back over the net. That dig by Sydney Bassett just went a little bit too high for her teammates. And Meredith now trailing just by 6. Madeline will receive that one. Brenna Clyde now feeding Sydney Bassett behind her. And now back down the middle, that is Lauren Bissett again. Another crib for the Angels. They've rattled off 4 consecutive points now. Debbie Baker trying to rally her troops and get back on track here. That's Lexi House back to serve. A nice serve. Jessica Inslee had a tough time with it, but the Knights do get it back over.
She does have a powerful swing, that is for sure. And she is also a freshman, as Meredith College's team is also pretty much dominated by freshmen.
Brenna Clyde was able to get a hand on that shot by Meredith, but it does float out of bounds. And a timeout by the Knights. They were up 19-15 in the first set of play. And Jade, obviously we saw in the early going, the Knights really had a good flow to things, lots of good digs. But in the last few plays, the Knights have, the Angels rather, have gotten the better of them. What have you seen a little bit differently from Meredith coming out of their second timeout they took just a few minutes ago?
I wouldn't say anything differently. I would say they're adjusting their play to the team, because obviously every volleyball team is different. So I don't think rather they're doing anything better or worse. I think they're just adjusting. Same with Southern Virginia University. I think they're realizing that Meredith College is getting ready, getting prepared for the plays that they are setting them up.
And one thing that Coach Baker did mention earlier today is that Meredith, they do have lots of height, which certainly gives them a bit of an advantage.
Yes, they do.
But not too much of that height is out there at the moment.
I was noticing that. I think our team has some pretty tall girls, but I haven't seen their bench quite yet, but hopefully we'll see more of them to come.
Big drive by the Knights there, but it does float out of bounds. Another point from Meredith, and now trail by just 3, 6 consecutive points now for the Avenging Angels. Jessica Inslee digs that one out. It does hit the net. Almost getting to it is Sarah Hoofman. but that'll fly out of bounds just over the commentating table. It is 19-17 now. Lexi House back to serve again for Meredith.
Told you she was good.
Jessica Inslee receives that one. Now Madeline's going to set up Brenna Clyde. Bounces off the top of the net. Madeline touches it. So does Jessica Inslee. And the official's going to give that one to Southern Virginia. 19-18 now the score.
He gave that one to Meredith Hollow.
Or Meredith, rather. My apologies. Another tough serve to handle, but Madeline's able to send it over. They're going to set up in the middle. That was number 16, Sarah Dees. Now the Knights back on the attack. Sydney Bassett, a good play to deflect it to her teammate, but that does become a point in favor of Meredith. They've rattled off 9 straight points after trailing 19-10. Let's see if the Knights can't gather themselves and get back on track to claim this first set. That one's going to float out of bounds. First mistake in a while by Lexi House.
I noticed that earlier during Meredith versus Pfeiffer. She swings hard, but sometimes that power overcomes her a little bit.
Much needed point for Southern Virginia. Sydney Bassett back to serve. And Meredith going to set up Lauren Bassett in the middle. A good dig there by Sydney Bassett. Now Brenna Clyde hammers it home off the arm of an Angel.
Along with Sydney, you also mentioned Brenna as a person to watch before this game. And I believe she is second on our team for attacks. Am I correct?
Yeah, coming into the day, Brenna had 82 total attacks. Obviously, she's added to that since the start of the game. And that point's gonna, the Knights thought they had it, but rather it goes to Meredith, who is now 21-20. That's quite a swing late in the first set. Would have been 22-19 in favor of the Knights, but rather it's a 1-point set right now. The set will serve that one. Sydney Bassett to receive. Now Sarah Hoofman going to feed Jessica Inslee in the middle. She'll softly send it over. Big rejection by Brenna Clyde and Caitlin Winker. Good save by Jessica Inslee. Brenna Clyde able to shove it back over, but it's going to be a point for Meredith. Sarah Hoopin wants to know what happened there. That looked like a tough call to make, in my opinion, and the Knights fans agree with it. They're going to say 3 hits on the Knights. It didn't look like that. So it looks like there might have been a deflection at the net. Then Jessica Inslee got to it. And Brenna Clyde was able to send it over, but nonetheless, they're going to replay the point. It remains 21-20. Good receive by Inslee. Hoopin's going to feed Madeline on the left side. Off a couple of Angels and a nice kill for Brooklyn Madeline. Jelaine Peterson coming back in for the Knights. So is number 9, Taryn Anderson, a freshman from Nephi, Utah. Anderson puts it over and an ace for Anderson. Right down the middle, no Angels were in the vicinity. And a very important 3-point lead in the first set.
I think they'll come out of it. I can't say for certain because these teams are incredibly matched. Each one is super talented. But seeing as we just got that last point, I'm hoping we'll pull through.
Brooklyn Madeline let that one sail out of bounds smartly. A 4-point lead for the Knights. It is set point. Anderson back to serve again. Received by Jablonski, goes off the roof. Makes it difficult for Angels to handle, and set number 1 goes to Southern Virginia.
I think Coach was right when she said tipping versus hitting. Earlier I mentioned how Coach thought it was necessary for our girls to be hitting rather than tipping, and I think this just proves her point. A lot of the time, either they don't get the right setup, they don't get the right whatever, and it ends up not going over versus hitting. There's a lot more power behind it, a lot more accuracy. Speaking of hitting, I was telling Quinn earlier, my brother played when he was in high school, and he's 6'5", a basketball player. And while he was playing, he broke a kid's nose during the game, and I don't think they ever let him play again. It's just too much of a liability.
So both teams switched sides for set number 2. And for those just joining us, a quick recap of the first set. Knights got out quickly and built themselves a 9-point lead, 19-10. The Angels did eventually come back and actually tied it at 19. Weren't able to take the lead, but they did tie it at 19. But a strong finish by the Knights allowed them to claim set 1. So they lead 1-0. Obviously both teams on their second game of the day, both defeating Pfeiffer. Took the Knights 5 sets to do it in a very dramatic come from behind victory. They trailed by 5 points in the 5th set of play. Then of course Meredith quickly beating Pfeiffer in just 3 sets.
I think a big part of today's victory on either side is going to be that the last game each of the teams played against Pfeiffer, what they took from it, what they took from watching, because I noticed some of our girls out here watching the Meredith versus Pfeiffer game, and hopefully they learned some things that'll help them against their opposing teams.
Just another minute for both teams to rest and get final instruction from their coaches. And as we mentioned earlier, Sydney Bassett got off to a real hot start. 6 kills in the first set to lead the team. Brooklyn Madeline also having a very nice first set with 5 of her own.
Sydney Bassett currently has a total attack. She has 14 total attacks, excuse me. And Brooklyn Madeline is not far behind that with 8 total attacks.
And it looks like the Knights are going to send out the lineup they started with to begin set number 2. And it will be an Avenging Angel serve to start things off. Number 17, Lily Davis, back to serve. Lily, a freshman from Roxborough, or North Carolina, attending Person High School in Person County. Good job by Jessica Inslee to keep it alive. Also by the Angels, they'll just send it back over. Now Knights back on the attack. Hoopman gonna set up Jelaine Pitterson, and that just barely floats out of bounds. And the Angels with an early 1-0 lead to start things off in the second set.
Not quite what we want to see, but coming from that last-minute victory against Pfeiffer, I think we'll be able to pull out of it.
Madeline's going to send that over softly. Angels back on the attack. That's Bissett, Lauren Bissett of the Angels with the kill. Make it a 2-0 count for Meredith in the early going. Davis back to serve again. That one's going to sail way out of bounds. First point of the set for the Knights. Jelaine Pitterson's going to come out, and back in for the Knights is Caitlin Wancure. Jessica Inslee on the serve. Good received by the Angels. A little bit of trickery going after it was Nikki Stevens, but not in time. Couldn't dig it out there. And the Angels get a point back to make it 3-1. Now back to serve is Lexi House. Knights will put it over. Angels able to get to it. Almost a nice looking block by Wayne Cure and Hoofman. But I believe that was number 14 of the Angels, Caitlin Russell, getting to it and for the kill. Lexi House on the serve again. Gonna float that one towards Stevenson, mishandled it. Jessica Inslee went after it, but that's gonna be a service ace for House. She's been a monster on the serve today for Meredith.
She has, and I don't know how she does it. My arm would be tired after a whole game previously.
That's either her second or third service ace. They're going to Sydney Bass on the left side, goes right through the two middle blockers for Meredith. Much needed point for the Knights. They trailed just 5-2. Brenna Clyde coming back in for Nikki Stevenson. Hoofing back to serve. That one's gonna sail just outside the line. Super close on that one. That point does go in favor of for Meredith. It's 6-2 now. Copeland coming back in for the Avenging Angels. This is Bissett back to serve. She'll send it towards Jessica Inslee. They're gonna set up Sydney Bass on the right side, right between Bissett and Lily Davis. Another kill for Sydney. Make it 8 on the day for her. Copeland up down the middle. Part of the great height they have for Meredith.
I think the girls are fulfilling coaches' want of not taking plays off. I'm certainly seeing a lot of hustle out here. I saw one of our players almost jump over the seats on the side. I was a little concerned.
So the Angels leading at 7-3 in set number 2. Back to serve is Maggie Gibbons, a freshman from Holly Springs, North Carolina. That's going to go towards Sydney Bassett. Hoopman going to set up on the left side. Madeline trying to dig it out was Lexi House, but that's another kill for Madeline.
I would not want to be behind that one. That is for sure. That was powerful.
And to your point earlier, Jade, lots of turnover on the women's volleyball team for the Knights this year. You know, lots of good players and good attackers like Courtney Pinkston, for example, left through graduation. But people like Sydney Bass and Madeline have been able to fill that void quite well this year. As that one goes into the net by Brenna Clyde. Another point for the Angels. It is 8-4 for Meredith. Lexi House coming out. And in there for the Angels is Megan Murray, freshman from Raleigh, North Carolina, out of North Raleigh Christian Academy. That one's going to go towards Madeline. Hoofman coming back to get it from the net. Feeding Madeline again, another kill for her, as she's starting to regain her groove that she found early in set number 1.
She is killing it in the second set of this match. That's all I have to say about that. She is absolutely crushing it.
And I believe that's the 7th kill for Brooklyn on the day. Nikki Stevenson going to be back to serve for the Knights. That one's going to go towards Murray. Angels send that over, easily handled by the Knights. Brooklyn Madeline again off the hands of Copeland. Good block by her. She's going to get it back off the left hand to Sydney Bass, and looks like it's going to be a net fault and a point towards Meredith. And Kinley Copeland going back out, freshman for Meredith. Lots of height there. Big part of that last play, or that last point for Meredith. Sydney Bass is going to send that over off the hands of the middle blocker. Nice looking block there by Jelaine Peterson.
When you were talking about height on Meredith's team, Quinn, earlier, you can definitely see it out on the court right now. Our 3 front hitters are tall.
And that was a fault there by Jelaine Peterson. She didn't like the call, but it is a 10-5 lead for Meredith. Sarah Hoofman after this one. Now Brooklyn Madlin. She'll get the kill. Off the hands of the blockers and to the left. Point for Southern Virginia.
Sorry. You can definitely see the confidence coming back in Southern Virginia's game. I think Meredith coming up so quickly last game kind of maybe tweaked their confidence a little bit. I think coach probably had a talk with them, and you can definitely see it coming back right now.
Nikki Stevenson. Hoofman's going to set up Sydney Bassett. That was a little bit high for her, but she is able to get the kill, going just past Jablonski, the libero for Meredith. And the Knights slowly but surely clawing their way back into it, getting some encouragement by Coach Debbie Baker. The Knights do lead 1-0. That one just scraping the top of the net almost. Max Stafford back for it for the Angels. Hoopin's gonna set up Jelaine. Good dig there by the Angels. Knights are gonna get it back, and they're back on the attack. Here's Sydney Bass on the left side, and a kill for her right through the hands of Lauren Bissett.
That would make Sydney Bassett's 9th kill today.
She had 16 in the previous game against Pfeiffer. She is more than on track to exceed that mark. And that one's going to bounce off the top of the net by Ali Polidori. Hoofman very close to getting a net fault, but she did avoid it. And the Knights trail by just one, a timeout by Meredith. And as Jade talked about, you know, both teams have called a couple of timeouts so far in this match. And it seems like coming out of these timeouts, they've been able to adjust quite well and claw their way back into it both times.
Apologies. I think they're very receptive to their coaches on both sides. I've noticed how receptive athletes are in general, but especially girls, because their coach is right there. They can't make that mistake, or they can and will get pulled out.
Both teams getting instruction from their coaches. Just a few more seconds in the timeouts. Here in the second set of play in match number 3 on the day. Second match for both teams. Both teams defeated Pfeiffer earlier in the day. The Knights lead it 1-0 and trail in this set 10-9.
Apologies. What are you expecting coming further into this game that we have going right now?
Well, it's very competitive, and the Knights have been able to adjust quite well. Obviously not too much height in there for Meredith, so we talked about being an advantage for the Angels. Good dig by Brooklyn Madlin. They're gonna set up Sydney Bassett. She'll just tap it over. Max Stafford back on the attack for Meredith. It goes off the net. Jablonski, a good job to get it back over. Hoofman's gonna set up Jelaine Pedersen into the left side where no Angel was in the vicinity. We are tied back up at 10.
One thing I have noticed about our team tonight, our SVU Knights, they have been incredible at finding those holes I was talking about earlier. Just in their formation, in their break, all of Meredith's players were up at the net for that block, and I believe it was Sydney. I'm not quite sure, but she found that spot and executed it perfectly.
Good dig there by Nikki Stevenson to save it for the Knights. Angels back on the attack, a rejection by Jelaine Pedersen. Right back at Lauren Bissett. And the Knights have taken their first lead of set number 2, 11-10 the count.
I apologize, that kill was by Jelaine Peterson.
Angels gonna set up number 7, Ali Polidori, but that sails way out of bounds on the left side. And the Knights extend their lead to 2, 12-10. Brooklyn Madlin again back to serve. She's second on the team with 8 kills, only to Sydney Bassett's 10. Nice looking serve, a tough time with it was Megan Murray. That one goes off the net. Nikki Stevenson and Sarah Hoopman able to save it for the Knights. And the Angels back on the attack. They're going to set up Polidori down the left side. A good rejection by Hoopman. Now back in the middle for Jessica Inslee. Hoopman's going to set up Bassett. Strong strike there. But back and forth we go. Polidori just sends it back over softly. Knight's able to set up an attack and a rejection by, looked like number 5, Lauren Bissett.
That was a beautiful rally they just had.
Nice looking rally, and it comes out in the Angels' favor. And now Lily Davis back to serve. Nice looking strike there by Sydney Bassett, but the Angels are able to handle it. They're going to look for Bassett again on the left side. It looked like it might have been a double hit, but none doing. Good job by the Angels to keep it alive. Left side by Jelaine Peterson. Perfectly placed. And the Knights back up by 2.
Jelaine is our only senior on our team this year. We only have we have 3 juniors and, from what I can see, 3 sophomores. Jelaine,
one of the dual sport athletes on this night's squad. She's also a conference champion high jumper in indoor and outdoor track.
I'm not surprised. Those two sports fit very well together.
Very gifted athlete. And she's helped a ton for obviously volleyball as well as track and field. Rejection there by Sydney Bassett. Knights back on the attack. Madeline looking for another kill of her own. Good job by Murray to keep that one alive. It deflects off the net, and then Sarah Hoofman, a point for the Angels. They're now back down by 2, 14-12 the score is. A couple of subs. Looks like Lexi House, the service specialist, is back in for Meredith.
That is a good way to put it. The service specialist.
Good receive there by Nikki Stevenson. It goes just at the top of the net. It looked like Sarah Hoopman didn't think that was gonna stay on their side. And that's a point for Meredith.
Earlier in the season, it was Meredith College had 5 wins and 4 losses, where Southern Virginia had 8 losses, 3 wins. It's either 3 or 4 wins. So I think there's a difference in the amount of game played, but I think it's mandatory to see it by a game-by-game basis, because they are continually improving. They are in this gym and in the weight room day after day, night after night, and I think Coach has been working hard with them, along with their assistant coaches and their teammates.
That one's going to go off the hand of Jessica Inslee, a point for the Avenging Angels. On that previous point, lots of excitement off that one. A really nice looking block by Sydney Bassett. But the lead is back down to 2 points for the Knights. That was Bissett on the serve again. Hoopman's going to set up Brenna Clyde down the middle. Bounces off a hand and back to Bissett. Madeline's going to dig that one out. They're going to find Brenna Clyde again. Bounces off the block of Copeland. And just in front of Lexi House, she could not get there in time, and the Knights regain their 3-point lead. But Jade, you mentioned the differences in schedule so far. But this is the beginning of conference play, so both teams getting a feel for how this season might play out, as Copeland going for a sneaky shot there. Now Madeline's going to hit it into the net. Bounces back towards her. And 17-15 the score is in set number 2. Back to serve is Sarah Dees of the Avenging Angels. That's going to go towards Brooklyn Madeline. They're going to set up Brenna Clyde. Goes off Jablonski, then the ceiling rather.
Quinn, did you hear that? Did you feel that heat that just came off of that ball when it came by? Pretty sure there was a heat wave. Is there smoke in the air somewhere?
And unfortunate for the Knights there. It'll go outside the line, and another point for Meredith. They trail by just one in the second set of play. That one's going to float out. Point for the Knights, smartly letting it go.
I don't know about you, Quinn. This is stressing me out. It's just back and forth between a 2 lead and a 1 lead.
A lot of back and forth in this set. Meredith is out to a quick lead. The Knights eventually fought back and have regained it and still are in the lead. But it's only 1 point now with that service error from Taryn Anderson. She's going to come back out. And Jessica Inslee back in the libero for the Knights. It's now Megan Murray, a freshman from Raleigh. That goes right to Sydney Bassett. Hoofman gonna tap it over for Jelaine Peterson. A good dig there by Sarah Dees. And also a good dig by Madeline. Now Brenna Clyde slams into the net. But unfortunate for the Knights, it is a point for Meredith. Megan Murray back to serve again. Serve goes towards Brooklyn Madeline. Now Brenna Clyde, really powerful shot. Copeland now rejected by Peterson. Jessica Inslee, good dig, back and forth we go. Now Brooklyn Madeline finally in the corner and it's in there. 19-18 lead for Southern Virginia. And we've seen a few of those shots from the Knights. First couple by Jelaine Peterson, that one by Brooklyn Madeline. Perfectly placed shots to find the corner.
Yeah, those shots you really can't predict where they're going to go, if they're going to go in or if they're going to go out. Just because of the spin of the ball and the height of the ball, it's really difficult to call or make a move on that ball.
And miscommunication there. Copeland was in the vicinity but couldn't get all of it. That is another point for the Knights, 20-18, and a timeout's going to be called by Coach Fiona Barkley of Meredith. So a really tight second set. Obviously the third set could go either way with how both of these teams are playing. And that just makes the second set that more important for the Knights to grab a stranglehold on this contest.
I am definitely sweating right now. I am stressed out for, oh.
There's Sydney Bassett and Brooklyn Madeline leading the way in kills for the Knights. Both have 10 and 9 apiece. Sarah Hoofman obviously getting the bulk of the assists. Really nice job by her so far. On the other side of things,
I think the only,
a slew of Angels have 4, 3, and 1 kills. Bissett has 4. Copeland also has 4.
I believe the only assist that wasn't made by Sarah is only a singular one, and that was from Jessica Inslee. So she has 21 assists. And while Sydney Bassett has 22 total attacks.
Nikki Stevenson on the serve. She's also been very involved. 7 digs on the day. On the attack are the Angels, and a really nice job there by Polidori, but I think there might have been a fault in there, and the point goes in favor of Southern Virginia, 21-18. Nikki Stevenson back to serve again. Important part of the rotation for the Knights. That one pops high up in the air. Really tricky play by Lily Davis. Madeline on the attack. Nice rejection there by Jelaine Peterson. Copeland now sends it over, and Hoofman just couldn't get a hand on it. And that'll go to the ground, and a much-needed point for the Angels. They desperately do not want to go down 2-0, as the Knights are 4 points away from taking the second set. Jablonski, the libero, back to serve for Meredith. And that one's going to be too far over the net. The Knights have a chance to attack, and Madeline is rejected by the combination of Bissett and Davis.
Coach calls a timeout. I think usually after these timeouts that coach calls, or the other coach calls, any timeout, our girls come out stronger.
Obviously, Coach Baker recognizing that it's a very important part of the game.
She's absolutely right.
Trying to grab a 2-set lead. And also Jelaine Peterson, Brenna Clyde, Sydney Bassett, and Winker, Caitlin Winker, that is, all with blocks on the day for Southern Virginia. This is the second USA South matchup for the Knights. Obviously, Pfeiffer earlier in the day was their first. So the Knights are 1-0 in conference play. Good start for them. They're able to take down the Falcons in 5 sets. Meredith, this is already their third. And obviously as well defeating Pfeiffer in 3 sets earlier to be 2-0 in conference play. Jelaine Peterson's gonna send that over. Jablonski nicely receives it. They're gonna, a good dig there by Nikki Stevenson again. But a good job by Lauren Bissett to get that point and create a bit of chaos on the Knights side. And Meredith now is tied at 21 apiece.
I think one of the main uppers for our Knights team is our student section. And it really helps that our school is so tight together.
And Madeline gets rejected again. The Angels have taken a 1-point lead. Another timeout taken by Southern Virginia. And as Jade mentioned, the barn here can get very loud. Lots of conference championships have been hosted here in the past couple of years. And so the Knights definitely want to get that student section involved and get some noise going in here again. 22-21 Meredith in the second set of play. Meredith trying to tie things back up at 1 set apiece. Knights trying to get a stranglehold on this match. Try to take a 2-0 lead in sets. But a few points in a row by Meredith has given them the upper hand late in set number 2. Hannah Jo Jablonski, the junior from Apex, North Carolina, back to serve for Meredith. We got Peterson, Hoofman, Madeline, Bassett, Inslee, and Stevenson in there for the Knights. Hoofman's gonna set up Sydney Bassett right down the left side. A good dig by Meredith. They're gonna set up number 5, Lauren Bissett again. Or rather, Ali Polidori, my mistake. And that one's gonna fly off some Knight hands and out of bounds. Meredith, an important 2-point lead here in late in set number 2. Jablonski back to serve again. Bassett receives that one. Jelaine Peterson just has to tap it over, but it's rejected by Meredith. Nice job by Madeline to get it over the blockers. Another rejection, this time by Peterson. And the Knights trail by just 1. Brooklyn Madeline back to serve. Murray's gonna receive that one. They're gonna set up Polidori again. A nice kill for her. Just off the hands of Jessica Inslee. And we are at set point 24-22 in favor of Meredith. Student section trying to get some noise back in the barn.
Loud and proud for SVU.
Madeline receives that one. Hoopman's gonna feed it back to Peterson. That's gonna go straight to Lily Davis. And they'll just send it over. Looks like a net fault, and there'll be a point for Southern Virginia. They're back in it, just trailing by 1. Trying to force a tie at 24 and send it to extra points. Jessica Inslee back to serve. Can't afford a service error here. Angels on the attack, rejection by Sydney Bassett and Caitlin Wancure. Real strong in the middle for the Knights is Sydney Bassett, and we are tied at 24.
Our Knights fans are over there getting rowdy for our girls. I'm sure everybody at home is also doing the same. This is a very teeth-clenching game.
Polidori rejected by the net and a point for the Knights. Wancure says no. And the Knights have regained a 1-point lead. Remember, it's win by 2. So the Knights now are at set points.
Sometimes I wish that that was not a rule.
Can certainly call for very lengthy sets and games.
It can, but it makes it more exciting.
Angels back on the attack. A good dig by Stevenson. Madeline's going to send it over off the top of the net. Jablonski's there, though, to handle it. That goes off Sydney Bassett. Knights trying to send it back over. And they're going to set up Bissett. That's going to be rejected by Wancure. Another big block. The combination of Wancure and Sydney Bassett in a very important second set victory for the Knights. They lead at 2-0 here in Buena Vista.
That was a fantastic game they just played. I apologize, set they just played. I'm excited to see what the third set brings.
And with this stoppage in play between sets, we want to announce again the Knights Athletic Department wants to thank the following sponsors for their continued support of Knights Athletics. And those sponsors include Cornerstone Bank, Mill Creek Orthodontics, River Crossing Apartments, Straws Drinks Needs on Magnolia Road. Come to Straws on September 22nd for Star Wars Trivia Night. Also, there's Grace Automotive, where SVU students and staff can receive up to 10% off their vehicle maintenance needs. Papa John's Pizza, locally owned and operated. Vinyl Cuts, The Beeve, Katana Sushi, and Hibachi Express. And if you would like to partner with Knights Athletics to promote your business to the Knight Nation, please contact Brett Schroeder at 801-633-1894. Again, that's 801-633-1894. So Jade, very tough competition in Meredith. Obviously, Meredith has gotten off to a strong start in conference play, but just generally boasting an 8-3 record. The Knights look like they're the ones who are in total control, being up 2-0. What have you taken from the previous 2 sets?
That I probably need a mouth guard because I'm clenching my teeth so much. Oh, this is a stressful game. I think SVU in general knows how to handle itself, and I think that coach has an amazing handle on her girls and on her team, and you can just tell by the way she walks that she is confident in what she does.
So as mentioned earlier, lots of turnover for this Knights squad. A lot of freshmen coming in that are playing valuable minutes as well. Valuable sets for the Knights. But that just to show, this is just to show you how good of a job Coach Debbie Baker and John Baker have done with this very young Knights squad. Obviously they'll lean on leaders like Sydney Bassett, Jelaine Peterson, Brenna Clyde to lead them, but the freshmen also doing very well for themselves as well.
I completely agree. And most of these freshmen just came in this fall with very little experience with our SVU Knights team through some camps during the fall and during the summer, but for the most part, this is just a fresh team.
And I think you counted, Jade, maybe 12 or 13 freshmen on the roster for Southern Virginia.
I believe it is 12. Let me check. 13.
13 freshmen for this Knights squad. We see a few of them out there for the Knights right now who started this game, including Brooklyn Madeline, the freshman. We've mentioned her a lot.
She's doing a fantastic job this game. She blends in really well with our older Knights girls.
9 kills on the day for Brooklyn. Sarah Hoofman, also a freshman. She's from Las Vegas, Nevada. And in the third set of play, as we're about to start up back in Buena Vista, the Knights going to try and finish things off in 3 sets.
I think from that adrenaline coming off the 5-for-win and coming off those 2 sets that we just won, I think it is a strong assumption that they are fired up and ready to go and ready to win this 3rd set and take it home.
So Brooklyn Madlin going to be back to serve again for the Knights to kick things off in set number 3. No aces or service errors on the day for Brooklyn, but that's going to make her first service error. I need to check myself before I speak.
Sometimes that happens to the best of us. I did something really similar during our men's soccer game last week.
Now this is Sarah Dees back to serve for Meredith. That one's going to float out of bounds, so 2 consecutive service errors to get things started in the third set. Caitlin Winkure is going to come in for Jelaine Peterson of the Knights. Jessica Inslee back to serve again. She'll send it nicely over the net. Megan Murray back to receive that for Meredith. They're going to feed number 14, Caitlin Russell on the left side. Now Sydney Bassett sends it back over. Lots of power there, but a good job to dig it by Jablonski. Knights back in the attack. Trickery there by Hoofman.
Once again, finding that open spot, finding that hole, and placing it perfectly right there.
So a really nice decision by Hoofman to catch Meredith off guard a bit. Jessica back to serve. It's a bit low. It'll go to Jablonski, and they're going to set up Russell on the far side again. Good dig by Madlin. Now Sydney Bassett send it back over, and she's going to go for the rejection at the net. She'll tip it back to her teammate Stevenson. Sydney Bassett again. Back and forth we go.
That ball had some beautiful spin on it.
And that one's going to float far out of bounds by Sydney Bassett. And Meredith has an early 3-2 lead in set number 3. Now Lexi House back to serve for Meredith. She's got a couple of service aces on the day.
How'd you put it earlier? Service specialist.
Sydney Bassett's kill goes off the 2 middle blockers. But Meredith going to put it back over. Knights back on the attack. It's Wayne Kerr with a kill. And Brenna Clyde looking ready to come back in for Nikki Stevenson. Brenna with 3 kills on the day. And that was Caitlin Winkure's first kill. Jablonski receives that one. And that drive by Ali Polidori goes out of bounds. And the Knights, just like that, have retaken a 1-point lead, 4-3. Lots of instruction being given by Coach Debbie Baker. Lexi House receives that one. And going behind the back was Lily Davis. And that's going to give a nice point for Meredith, as the Knights were only able to send it under the net. And now Bissett is back to serve. And Madlin receives that one. Hoopin's going to set up Brenna Clyde down the middle. A nice kill for her off the hands of Bissett. Sydney Bassett takes this nicely towards Polidori. Angels have a little bit of trouble with it as it goes off the ceiling. Polidori sends it back, but it is out of bounds, and a point for the Knights. Sydney Bassett back to serve again.
There is some major hype going on from the bench, and they're really cheering their girls on. They want to win this, and I think it helps the girls on the floor to have their teammates cheering for them.
Copeland sends it to the right of the block of Madlin. Knights having trouble with it. That's going to be a triple hit and a point back in favor for the Angels. And to your point, Jade, that's one of the unique things about volleyball is how involved the benches get. And it's very loud in here, obviously, as we mentioned earlier. And that can only help the competitive spirit of both teams.
Of course.
Tough serve to handle, but Madlin can do it. She's going to send it off the wall of Copeland. And that's another kill for Madlin. Make it 10 on the day for her. And Taryn Anderson back to serve. Freshman from Nephi, Utah. She's coming a few times to serve for the Knights. And this one's going to go into the net. She'll sub back out.
I think this proves Coach Baker's point that they fight tooth and nail to the end, as they did against Pfeiffer this morning.
And I think they really have responded to Coach's message, as you brought up, about playing through the game, not losing focus.
I think they did a fantastic job.
Exactly, even after points earned, as they had to fight back a lot against a really solid Meredith squad. There's a nice looking block there by Brenna Clyde. Makes it 8-5 for the Knights. Nikki Stevenson now back to serve. Nikki is a sophomore from Elliott Lake, Ontario, Canada.
Oh, she's international. That's cool.
Nice bit of trickery there by the Angels, as they're going to get that point. Lots of Knights in the vicinity trying to get the dig, but they could not get there in time. Went perfectly between all of them, and a much needed point for the Angels. This is Hannah Jojabonski back to serve. She'll send it towards Jessica Inslee. They're going to try and set up Brooklyn Madlin up in the air off the hands of Bissett. Now Meredith back on the attack, but it was outside the court of play. And that is a point for Southern Virginia. 9-6, they lead it in set number 3. Now Madlin back to serve. Murray able to handle it. A good dig by her. And Bassett's going to be able to send it over. A bit of a miscommunication there by the Angels. That one's going to go out of bounds.
They recovered that play fantastically. That was an amazing, amazing recovery.
Good communication and good recovery by the Knights, and they lead it 10-6. This is Madlin back to serve again, but that one's going to float out of bounds.
Too strong.
And
she's been hitting the gym too hard.
And that'll be her first service error. Haven't seen too many of those on the side of the Knights. Not giving away too many free points. Here's Sarah Dees back to serve, the sophomore from Greenville. Good receive there by Nikki Stevenson. Was a bit low, but Peterson able to send it back over, and the Angels back on the topper. Rejection by Peterson and Hoofman. None doing there for Meredith. And it's an 11-7 lead for Southern Virginia. Wayne Cure back in for the Knights. There's Jessica Inslee now on the serve. And that one's going to go into the net. A couple of service errors there by the Knights, but they do still lead it by 3. Jessica, one of the experienced leaders on this Knights squad. She's a junior from Gold Canyon, Arizona. Sydney Bassett a receive. Hoopin's going to set up Bassett again. It goes off the top of the net, maybe. But then a good job by Sarah Dees to save it until Polidori sends it out of bounds. Another point for the Knights. It is 12-8.
Sarah and, I apologize, Brooklyn, both have the same amount of kills right now, and I think they're both showing how talented this team as a whole is.
Really nice serve there by Hoofman. Gave the Angels some trouble. Now the Knights back in the attack. They're going to set up Brenna Clyde. That's rejected by Polidori. Good job by Madeline to recover. Tricker there again. Madeline with the dig. A good job by her. Brenna Clyde skims the net but gets it back over somehow. Polidori back in the attack. Rejected by Wayne Cure. And back and forth we go. What a rally. Sydney Bassett softly over. Polidori able to handle that one. Rejection there by Wayne Cure, and I think the Knights are going to get a point out of that. They will. Lots of action on that rally.
They really pulled together at the end there. I was nervous for a second because they had 3 girls sprinting to the back to recover that ball, but they pulled it together.
A really strong play by Wayne Cure. A solo block on that one. That's Bissett. Able to go cross court. Knights gonna handle it. And they're back down by 4. Again, Knights lead 2-0. Both sets very thrilling, bit of back and forth between the teams. Sydney Bassett receives this one. Hoofman's gonna set up Brenna Clyde. She's gonna air that one out of bounds.
These girls are just too swole. I aspire to be as strong as they are.
Bissett. Inslee receives that one now. Sydney Bassett, it goes off the top of the net, unfortunately for the Knights, just before Bassett could get there. And that's 2 or 3 points in a row, much needed for Meredith. They only trail by 2 in the third set. Southern Virginia trying to complete the sweep this afternoon, as Brenna Clyde's gonna go off the ceiling almost. She'll send it back over for the Knights. A bit of trickery there by Lily Davis, but the Knights with it. And Brenna Clyde going cross court, out of bounds though. Point Meredith.
Sometimes I think I could be a volleyball player. Then I got to high school and all these senior girls were hitting on me and I was like, oh goodness, I'm gonna break something.
Here's Sydney Bassett. She's going to air it out again just outside. And just like that, Meredith has tied it up. A timeout now being called by Coach Debbie Baker. She wants to talk things over. As a couple of hits by the Knights that were a bit too strong go out. And here we are again. Even score. A back and forth set. And if you're the Knights, you know, you've already played a set. I mean, both teams have played a match already, but fatigue certainly can play a factor for either side the longer this goes on. So if you're the Knights, you probably want to wrap things up early.
I agree. I think I might have nightmares from this game. It's just so stressful. And that's one of the great things about volleyball is it is a constant, there's no long breaks other than short timeouts, and it's always constantly going, and that shows the endurance of these girls.
Meredith and Southern Virginia, both traditional powerhouses in volleyball in the USA South Conference. These two teams met in the final 2 years ago in the fall of 2021. Of course, Southern Virginia coming out on top as they are back-to-back USA South champions,
so would you
looking for their third in a row.
Would you consider them rivals, Quinn? Maybe?
I would.
You would? Okay.
Two very competitive, well-coached teams, very competitive matchups, and despite it being 2-0, there's been a lot of back and forth here today.
100%.
Meredith is rejected by Wayne Kerr. Another block for her. She's had a couple of solo blocks in the past few minutes, and she allows the Knights to regain a 1-point lead. Sydney Bassett up back to serve for the Knights. Nice looking serve received by Lexi House. Now Copeland able to send it over back towards Bassett, but Madeline now with a big attack. And then a good dig by Jessica Inslee. Hoofman just couldn't get there in time. as it bounced off Jessica Inslee's hands and back towards the middle of the court. And a point for the Angels. We are tied at 14. It's Lily Davis on the serve. Hoofman's going to set up Brenna Clyde. Lots of power under that one. It goes off the hands of Copeland, but back down to the ground. A point for Southern Virginia. Tyron Anderson is going to come in for the serve.
I believe.
Angels back in the attack. Hoopman's going to get a hand of that one, but a bit of a miscommunication there by the Knights, as Jelaine Peterson could only deflect that under the net. Another point for Meredith. We're going to see Jessica Inslee come back in for the Knights. Now Megan Murray back to serve. And that one's going to go off the top of the net. An important point for the Knights. They're just 9 points away from taking set number 3 and this match. That one by Nikki Stevenson's going to go off the net. Creates a bit of chaos on the end of the Angels, and they're going to take that point of fault there by the Knights. And we're tied back at 16. Now Hannah Jo Jablonski, the libero for Meredith. Good receive by Sydney Bassett. They're going to go for Brooklyn Madlin. It's been a minute since she's gotten a kill. She gets one there as that one bounces off an Angel, then the ceiling, and back to the ground.
Quinn, I think your eyebrows were singed off just now.
Lots of heat from Madlin on that one. Make it another kill for her as she's back to serve. And Sydney Bassett is able to tip that one back over on the top of the net. A rejection there by Hoopman. She's got it. And it's 18-16 for the Knights. Brooklyn Madlin serving again. That's going to go low. Tough to handle for Caitlin Russell. Back in the Knights side, a good play by Stevenson. Now Hoofman's going to have to put it up, and it hits the bottom of the net. Good effort by Hoofman.
One thing I think that I've noticed this game is our Lady Knights are incredibly well at pulling together a scramble. They're quick on their feet. They can hit that ball and get right back into position.
Yeah, they're positioned very well. Lots of quickness, lots of athleticism, allowing them to get out of jams like that one, but not that time. Nice looking kill there for Jelaine Peterson. Lots of power on top of that ball. And they regain their 2-point lead. Knights closing in on a third set victory. Jessica Inslee's gonna air it out. Just over the line, another point on a server's error for Meredith.
Here comes our service specialist, number 13, Lexi House.
Meredith's going to bring back in Lexi House and Ali Polidori. Lexi House, as Jade mentioned, a couple of service aces on the day. That one's going to deflect off the top of the net. Unfortunate bounce for the Knights. It went between Sarah Hoofman and Caitlin Wincure. Not much they could do on that one.
I don't think anybody was expecting that because her serves mostly this game have been spot on.
Well, that one sails out of bounds to the right, to the near side.
Eat my words now.
And now Sarah Hoofman back to serve. So the Knights get a key one back there. They're now on the 20-point mark. Good receive by Jablonski. They're going to set up Bissett in the middle. And it turns into a kill for her. We are tied now at 20. Back and forth we go.
It's giving me whiplash, man.
And Meredith's going to get the freshman Kinley Copeland back in there, one of their leaders in kills. We're going to set up Sydney Bass on the left side. A good job to dig it by Lauren Bissett, but a couple of Angels fell inadvertently, and it turns into a Knights point.
Not enough spit on their shoes. Did you do that? If you were an athlete and you put spit on your shoes to make them squeaky, then you know what I'm talking about.
And Lily Davis doing her best to clean the floor. I think she was one that fell, so maybe a bit too much sweat on the court. Sydney Bassett now back to serve. Get some power into that one. Polidori's going to get a set from Lily Davis. Now the Knights back on the top. It's Madeline. It might have deflected off an Angel. It did. Now 21-20 in favor of the Knights. And again, this is a really key game, Jade, for the Knights. Obviously, the record at 4-6, not quite how maybe they imagined the start of the season would go. But if they're able to knock off solid competition, maybe their best competition in the USA South early on the season like this, that's a real big confidence booster for them going forward the rest of the year.
I agree. I believe you mentioned earlier that we were two-time conference champions?
Yep, 2021 and 22 USA South Conference champions.
I have full faith that our girls will try their hardest to get there.
And Brooklyn Madeline did not get under that one enough, and that creates a timeout opportunity for Coach Debbie Baker. We are tied at 22.
2 was never my favorite number.
Knights trying to end things quickly here in 3 sets. Meredith obviously, of course, trying to extend it. Still quite a bit of fans in attendance in the barn today. And as we talked about earlier, this is a place that gets really loud, especially when conference championships are hosted, whether it's volleyball, basketball, any of these sports. Lots of fans, lots of students show out, and it gets really loud in the barn.
It's very echoey, that is for sure.
So still Brooklyn Madeline and Sydney Bassett leading the way in kills. Brooklyn Madeline with 12. But also a few other Knights chipping in. Sydney Bassett, Sarah Hoofman, and Taryn Anderson all with aces. That one goes a little bit too far in front of Brenna Clyde, but she's able to punch it back over, and a miscommunication by the Angels allows the Knights to take advantage and get a point. It's 23-22. Taryn Anderson back in to serve for Southern Virginia, getting some encouragement from Sydney Bassett. That one is clean, going right to Lexi House. They're gonna set up Polidori, who softly sends it over. Now the Knights back on the attack. Brenna Clyde, lots of power. It's rejected by Copeland, but it gets over the net still, and another point for the Knights, 24-22. We are at match point. Students getting up and pointing one finger in the air. Just 1 point remaining for Southern Virginia for this victory. Taryn Anderson again, it's gonna go wide left. Another service error.
Quinn, I can't handle this. I'm so stressed out. Good old volleyball.
Megan Murray now back in attendance. Students trying to get a chant going.
I am 100% positive you can hear it in the background.
Most people in the barn here on their feet as Megan Murray gets set to get this point going. Received by Brooklyn Madeline. Now Hoopman gonna set up Jillian Peterson down the middle. A nice play to the right by Jillian. And that'll wrap things up for the Knights, who advance to 2-0 in conference play as they take down the Meredith Avenging Angels. And right before we wrap up, we want to thank you all for joining us. And going forward, this is a real confidence boost for the Knights, who have at times struggled early on in the season. What do you think the Knights can take from this match going forward, Jade?
I think exactly what Coach said at the beginning. You have to fight through every second that is, well, I guess not on the clock.
Well, we thank you all for joining us for another edition of Knights Broadcasting. It's your Southern Virginia University women's volleyball team taking down the Meredith Avenging Angels in 3-0. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy a pleasant evening.